Hi, folks. You know the voting age is under consideration, but more importantly that a group of young people have taken some legal action to get in regards to it. So I've got Jack MacPherson with me right now, and welcome, Jack. Good to see you.
Yeah, it's a pleasure to be here.
So Jack is 17 years of age, and he feels that the vote should be theirs as well as ours. So why do you think that, Jack?
Well, I believe that voting is an extension of our basic right to self-determination and our freedoms as an individual. And I believe that as taxpayers, as many 16 and 17-year-olds have jobs and do pay taxes, that we should be represented in how those taxes are used.
Well, you make a valid point. I would think if you're working, maybe there is some merit in the fact that your taxes you're paying into it, the government, you would like to see whether they're going. The other factor is, though, you've only been very early. I guess you've only just started in the working side of it. So the question really is, really, do you have you the maturity and the life experience enough to make a good solid vote which could change the face of New Zealand very quickly?
Well, I believe that when you present that question, the border could shift really quickly for when you believe that to be. You could end up pushing the voting age back to 21, 25, however long you feel is enough for someone to have had experience, where really we should be giving that essential right to all taxpayers because they should all deserve a say in how it's going, as well as if you don't allow someone to enter into that system and become informed in how it works, then it becomes harder to enter later on, and you're always never having that enough experience.
Jack, I'm going to be frank with you. When I was 17, I was an apprentice, and I have no regrets I didn't have a vote, because my thinking at that particular stage was immature, not good enough. I didn't have enough life experience, and I made some very, very silly decisions. In fact, nearly cost people's lives because I drove like an idiot as well. So what I'm saying is the maturity wasn't there, and your frontal cortex and your brain is not matured enough yet, and that's what the arguments are. How do you respond to that? Because a lot of people in our society would be, again, against you guys but having the vote.
Well, speaking from a brain development standpoint, the frontal cortex, or just the brain as a whole, doesn't fully develop until the ages of between 22 and 25. And so we clearly don't have a system that is about the brain development. What we do have is an age set up based on what people think should be the maturity. But I think that when you start considering if someone's mature enough to vote or if someone's responsible, then you can end up cutting out other groups, because there'll always be irresponsible and immature people of any age, no matter the circumstance. And if you're doing it based on someone's mental capability, you might be next to start removing the voting right for elderly people. Like, who knows if they can make the same responsible decisions as they used to.
Wow, that's a pretty powerful argument, Jack, because what you're saying is maybe the retirees, those people, I'm 66, so I'm maybe getting into that category, shouldn't have a vote. That is interesting, but I'll put it back to you then. Do you think a 12 or 11-year-old who's got a paper run or delivers pamphlets should be able to have a vote as well?
Well, I do think that's a very interesting question. At the moment, I would say it makes the most sense to put it at 16, because we have a lot of systems set in place where that are enacted at 16, like the age of consent. It's when you can first start getting a driver's license, a firearms license. I think you can, there's a lot of weapon licenses. It's when you can, I think you can get married with your parents' consent at 16. And so there are a lot of things in our system that already recognize 16 as an age of personal responsibility and maturity. And that's why I think it's a good guideline of where to move it in the future. Although I wouldn't be necessarily immediately opposed to something slightly lower if that's the way our society evolved.
Jack, you've just agreed with the current, you made a comment before in saying our current system is set up based on age alone, which I don't think I agree with. It could be based on a whole lot of factors as well, and that's why they picked 16. But now you're grabbing hold of that and saying, hey, 16's a good age because of all these other factors. But so, Jack, I don't know if there's a strong argument in this, but you've also taken legal action. Now, on what basis is the legal action taken?
Well, so yeah, we just went to the Court of Appeals because our case got rejected in the High Court, and that's the next step. And so our argument was basically about how there's a section in our Bill of Rights that says that all people above the age of 16 should be free of discrimination, which includes age discrimination. And so at that point, we also see in the same document that we have the discrimination of age, where the voting age says that you have to be of or over 18 to be able to vote. And so we believe that that was a clash, and that it was a discrimination within the document. And what ended up happening in the court was that they agreed that it was a discrimination, but they said it was a justified discrimination because it was too political an issue for them to be able to make a ruling on.
Well, that's be interesting, and I guess that's the High Court weaseling out of their responsibility again. It is also some of the factors you mentioned before, gun licenses and driver's licenses. They've been reviewed a few times, and we're still sticking with 16. So I agree, but there's some question marks on them. But do you think all your peers would be making a very what we would want for voters to be considered, to be educated well enough to understand the different arguments from different political parties, and then to select it based upon life experience? Now, a lot of you people at your age have not had a lot of work experience, and most of your peers, would they be working at this stage? I would say no.
I'd say about 50% or more at least. Like, a lot of my friends are in the working, are working right now. Only a couple people actually don't have jobs, and that's just because they haven't been able to find them. Like, everyone is in the job search because they realize there are more funds that they need to make. Like, people soon will start moving out. They'll start needing to save up for university. And that's interesting about the education thing, because our education system allows you to drop out at 16. And so you can make your own decisions about your education there. And it also, like, after you finish high school, you can move on to university. And so if we're talking about education, why not move the voting age to when people finish university? We clearly don't see as much higher education as important as a fundamental right for all people, because even if someone drops out now at 16, at 18 they'll still be able to vote. So the system is based on this age, not the education.
Well, just one final point, Jack, I want to bring to your attention is would you agree that in fact a vote should be based on life experience and what you deem things as important? But I also put to you that most of your colleagues at your age are not working, but also have to support themselves. They're probably still relying on their parents, and I think those factors means that they haven't had worldly experience yet and don't know a lot of the aspects, because home ownership and things like that are pretty major issues within the voting system.
I agree that there are some definite big issues that wouldn't be considered by a younger audience, but I also think that it provides an opportunity to have more voices on the future which these people are going to live in, and it might create a range of new topics which haven't been considered by older voters. Say, I know that there's a lot of age disparity in the environmentalist movement, and so maybe there's different things, and it's not specifically life experience, but what's important to you at different stages of life.
Well, let's leave it there, Jack, because I think the environmental issue could be our next discussion, because I found that really interesting. And to have it from a perspective of a 17-year-old, sorry, you're 17, I think it's very, very good for us all. And to hear it, because you guys don't get heard a lot. And I think you should look at that, guys. Jack is an intelligent, clever guy, and he's got a good perspective on life. So agree with him or not. And I got to say I don't, but agree with him or not, I think he's got a lot to offer and a big future ahead of him.